Welcome to Mindshock, one of the most long-awaited episodes in the history of Mindshock. I mean, this conspiracy goes back quite some time. I mean, if you're really retracing it, it goes back to ancient times. It goes all the way back to the most ancient civilizations in the world and their cave paintings, the Snake Brothers of Native American beliefs, and then in modern times, David Icke has been credited with bringing them to the forefront. Reptilian alien shapeshifters from another dimension. That is the conspiracy that is getting the logical analysis treatment today. In typical Mindshock fashion, without falling for any silly logical fallacies, you won't find another podcast like this, because obviously the mainstream media is littered with nothing but propaganda and fallacies. And obviously, even other podcasts that try to be objective, they're still spamming fallacies like no tomorrow. So obviously here on Mindshock, we shock the minds not only with the information, but in the analysis of all information without falling for silly logical fallacies. As always, if you want to help support the Mindshock podcast, help logic and reason return to a world that is quickly going extinct, which has never been more obvious than in the past few years. I mean, it is tough out there. You can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. If you're still not getting notifications, just like and comment on more videos. Share them. Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic logical analysis, co-podcaster requests. You can also be a guest on the podcast depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comments section. Or if you are joining us live in the chat, and I will try to get to all the comments. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel that way. So, let's do a quick poll here. Before we get into the presentation on who is there, or let's put it this way, are reptilian shapeshifters running the Illuminati for a new world order takeover? And let's see what everybody in the chat thinks here. See where we're starting from. See what our starting position is. And then we will dive deep. Wow, this is quite interesting. 71%. Wow. Oh, 60% yes. Interesting. 10% no, 20% too triggered to answer, and 10% GTFO. I'm going to give it another minute or so while I double check the stream here. YouTube obviously playing some serious games with this stream and the entire channel ever since I did the Occult NASA Patches podcast. Just give me a couple seconds, I'll make sure everything's running smoothly. Okay, we are up to 69% Yes, reptilian shapeshifters. Running the Illuminati for a new world. I'm surprised it's not 66%. That would have been interesting. 71. I'm going to give it another minute or so, but this is a sweeping poll here so far. Justin Johnson in the house. How dare you speak truth that doesn't fit the narrative? I'm just asking questions here. I mean, how can you learn if you don't ask questions? Mindless regurgitation is how the cult of scientism, the cult of statism, the deadliest cult in human history, statism. Over 150 million murdered just the past, or actually it's like 200 million, the past century and a half or so, murdered by statism, and there are still goofs out there who think it's a good idea to trust their governments, the deadliest forces in human history. I mean, the level of goofery is off the charts. You would think, I mean, it's kind of a wild thing, too. You would think, I mean, pre-widespread internet, were less or more people trusting their government? It's hard to gauge. It's hard to gauge because the cities, Democrat cities, have such high populations compared to rural areas. So I guess in the cities, people did trust the government and still do. So I guess outside of the cities, where perhaps there's a little bit more common sense, I don't know if they did. I don't know. It'd be interesting to do some polls on that. Rural versus city areas. Okay, so I'm going to stop the poll here. 68%. Wow. 68% believe the reptilian interdimensional shapeshifter conspiracy theory to take over the world is true. Now let's logically analyze the theory without falling for any logical fallacies to see if there's any kind of merit here. Now once again, this is Mindshock, where the motto is, the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. And of course, I do not claim anything is true or untrue, other than, of course, what can be empirically verified. So, let's get into this. I have a very interesting presentation here, quite extensive. I've done a lot of digging. I mean, this podcast has been probably at least 5 years in the making, just in terms of compiled research. So I know all the Mindshock listeners will appreciate it. Now, should I start this off with a huge Mindshock? I think I will. I think I'm gonna start rolling here with some of the biggest mind-shocking theories that I've come up with regarding the reptilian theory. So, I don't know how many people have seen my podcast on analog versus digital paranormal analysis. So, I postulated that why there are so little videos of, let's say, Bigfoot or other creatures, if they're interdimensional or paranormal in nature, if the electromagnetic frequencies from digital technology do not capture them. Is this why people can see a ghost or interdimensional entity, take a photo or video of it, it doesn't show up in the photo or video, but they will swear that it was there? Is this why, for example, the Patterson-Gimlin footage of Bigfoot, some of the best Bigfoot footage ever, if you haven't seen my analysis on that in the Bigfoot, you can watch the Bigfoot Jumbo podcast. I mean, that's over, I think, 12 hours long of Bigfoot analysis and theories, probably the most comprehensive on all of the interwebs. And I kind of went over the enhanced and remastered footage directly from the film reel. You can see the muscles rippling. And this was done, in the 2000s, so this is way before the consumer rollout of AI or anything like that for enhancement. And you could see the muscles rippling in the Patterson-Gimlin footage. You can see that there are no eye holes in any kind of mask. I mean, The arms, you could see the fingers moving and arms that dangle way past the knees, so it's not human proportion. Not to mention the stride was showed gigantic. And I even went over all of the alleged confessions of the guy in the suit and why he was a very dubious individual. So anyway, on the Analog versus Digital Paranormal podcast, I went over the theory that analog film does not have the electromagnetic frequency radiation that digital technology has. So perhaps if people were out there with 8mm cameras in the woods every day, they would be catching way more Bigfoot on video. And not to fall for false dichotomies, I am not claiming that there aren't also flesh and blood Bigfoot, which may be caught on digital film, or on digital video, and supposedly are. There's tons of videos of those. Perhaps both are true. Maybe there are interdimensional creatures that are Bigfoot, and maybe there are also flesh and blood Bigfoot creatures. So the flesh and blood creatures could be caught on film or digital, and then obviously the interdimensional entities would not be able to. Captain Hatton says, if you don't listen to Bruce talk about Bigfoot being an interdimensional entity for 12 hours, you are not a real mind shocker. Ain't that the truth, Captain Hatton? Walter Slater says Ike was ahead of his time. Indeed, he was. I mean, the one thing about Ike, chill or not, is that he really appeared, at least on the surface, to follow the evidence wherever it went, regardless of how crazy it made him look. I mean, that's the appearance of the situation. You know, regardless of what you think about it, that's the appearance of the situation. AJD in the chat says, if they are energetic beings, then they can manipulate energetic, that is electronic equipment. Yeah, that's also true. That is also true. They might be able to do that as well. Okay, so what if, who's ready for the mind shock? I hope everybody's sitting down for this, because I don't believe anyone has presented the theory I am about to present. What if, I mean, who's familiar with the founding of Apple computers, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Microsoft, all of the modern computer rollout and how it's steeped in Illuminati symbolism? I mean, literally the Apple logo. I mean, the Apple computer being sold for $666. What if all computer technology, all digital technology, camera or otherwise, was specifically designed with frequencies in mind to not be able to capture interdimensional reptilian shapeshifters? If it's literally in the circuitry, because look at the people that designed it. Now, they might have not been knowing, if there were grunts, they might not know why they designed it a particular way. But what if literally all circuit-related computer and digital technology has so-called built-in filters? So you could see people shapeshift with the naked eye, perhaps. And only when those filters glitch, like sometimes seen in footage on the news or elsewhere, if there's a split-second glitch where whatever the tech it allowed a certain frequency through, and you could see the shapeshift. Is that what They Live was trying to tell us when you put on the sunglasses? That's some kind of a filter that allows the frequency to see them. So that is one of my theories. Here's another one for you guys. I hope you like that one. We'll be coming back to that pretty hardcore. I do have another podcast coming up on just the history of computing. The reason I came up with that theory is because it's actually very interesting on how processors were originally developed and how it was very, very exclusive contracts to just one or two companies, highly controlled. So again, I'm not saying this theory is true, but it could easily have been done. Particularly, let's say if we couple this with the I don't know what you would call this. If this is the end of the next cycle of the world, like the Mayans predicted, so either 2012 or so is the new cycle. If people are going to be waking up and the truth would be revealed, would the reptilians just sit by and allow themselves to be exposed? Or would they attempt to preempt this, especially if they noticed that humans, whatever the build in technology was at the beginning of the 1900s, and they specifically tried to preempt computing by developing all computer and digital tech specifically designed to not capture whatever frequency would reveal them. Now, if you think this is mind-shocking, I'm actually going to provide some receipts for the physics of frequencies in a moment, but we have to go through a history lesson first. I also have another theory, which I got to put this on the screen here, I guess, for the coincidence theories, because this is another mind shocker. This might actually get us shut down, so I have to be very careful on how I phrase this. I have to be very, very careful on how I phrase this. Otherwise, this is going to get shut down like that, like the Occult NASA Patches podcast. And we actually got shut down one or two other times, I think. I don't remember. Some of them were just targeted fair use attack, even though it was fair use, but let me see how I can phrase this. And I have to put a certain receipt on the screen for the coincidence theorists. Now, we can't actually go through it because we'll get shut down, but I believe I can just put up a screenshot of this. So let me see what I can do here. Oh man, it does not want... I'm gonna get this on the screen. I will get this one way or another. This is going up on the screen. Okay, let me see what I can do here. I don't know why more people don't know about this. And again, there's only, I mean, I don't know if I could even read through this without flagging the entire YouTube algorithm. Should we risk it? Last time we had this conversation, we got shut down on the Occult NASA Patches. I think I'm in a risky mood today. So, I think we're gonna do it. We're gonna risk it. We're gonna go deep into Mindshock land. So what I'm gonna be presenting here is straight from the National Library of Medicine. Maybe some people have heard of it, the NIH. A lot of coincidence theorists and authority-worshipping cultists, scientism cultists might have heard of this. They might respect it in their authority worship. Okay, so who's braced? I hope you guys are braced. So, perhaps not just the computer and digital rollout, but perhaps a rollout of a certain other medical technology was specifically designed to manipulate DNA. So here is the National Library of Medicine, aspects of nanotechnology for a certain medical treatment development and delivery applications. So this was published in Pharmaceutics, February 2023. Again, obviously conspiracy theorists never predicted this. Obviously the conspiracy theorists are always wrong about everything. It's not like there's actual documented scientific evidence and papers clearly demonstrating that these so-called medical treatments are actual nanotechnology that delivers straight into human cells. Now, obviously, I mean, the NIH is obviously full of it here. Pharmaceutics has to be full of it. I mean, all of these peer-reviewed scientific journals, I mean, they just must be full of all of them. They must be full of it, right? Because there's no way the conspiracy theorists could be true. There's no way, right? There's no way nanotech can be an actual certain medical treatments that may or may not be injected into humans, that may or may not actually affect human DNA and replication. I mean, this is clearly bonkers, right? I mean, all these peer-reviewed scientific journals, they must be wrong, right? Right? So, yeah. So, if the Reptilian Alien Shapeshifters is trying to get ahead of the curve, would they or would they not implement technology specifically designed to block even the human eye from picking up certain frequencies? Now, even the most devout coincidence theorists, authority-worshipping cultists, scientism cultists, even they probably know about infrared and certain wavelengths and frequencies the human eye can't see. Perhaps interdimensional alien shapeshifters are on some of these frequencies that maybe the human eye was once able to see, or can see under certain conditions, but perhaps certain medical treatments are specifically designed to alter the DNA and to render a human unable to detect or observe interdimensional alien shapeshifters. Yes, something else is here. Perhaps they live is more real than fiction. Yes, indeed. I'm still surprised that movie got made. I actually mentioned that on a couple of podcasts. I'm really surprised that movie ever got made. Okay, so those are some of the mind-shocking theories I will launch with, and we'll be going back to those. So, okay, there's actually a second part of this theory. I might as well reveal it now. I'm revealing everything right from the get-go on this one, and then we'll go into the minutiae. So if this nanotech impairs real humans' ability to see more of the light spectrum, wavelengths, frequencies, etc., because if we're in a state of de-evolution, so to speak, and we were once much smarter, stronger, healthier, and able to see and understand more, if this is specifically designed to dumb down the human, humans wouldn't be able to identify shapeshifters at all. Now, enter EMPs. Let's say that EMPs are set off the world over, so even if there's no more internet or digital tech, if the nanotech in certain medical treatments actually used some kind of, if it's using the electric capacity of human cells in the human host, because the human body is literally an electrical machine. There's an electric I mean, I forget what the exact ampage is, but it was calculated. I mean, might as well get the exact ampage. So there's a couple different things here. Supposedly, the energy output of a resting adult human body is 100 watts, and with a hard physical load, it could be up to 700 or 800 watts. Bruce Lipton, neuroscientist, claimed 3.5 trillion volts. So, regardless, quite a lot. So, if the goal was to, let's say, New World Order, mass end of the world destruction through EMPs, would this necessitate, if you're the reptilian alien shapeshifters, well, what is your goal? What is the agenda? If it's to take over the world and the world needs to be shut down, and if all digital tech and computers was just used to buy time by implementing that, now if the goal was to always shut it all down, but if humans naturally can see interdimensional alien shapeshifters, how do you rectify that? How do you hide in plain sight? Would a certain medical treatment use the actual charge? Would the nanotechnology run off human cells, which have, the human body, hundreds of watts or even, trillions of volts? And the nanotech could run off that, effectively manipulating human DNA to render their eyes unable to spot the wavelengths or frequencies required to see interdimensional reptilian shapeshifters. So those are the theories we are starting with right out of the gate here on Mindshock. So now it's time for the history lesson, because I think a lot of people are going to be mind-shocked on the history of this. David Icke actually didn't make it up in any way. And he gets credit for, I guess, kind of bringing it more to public awareness. But it was around for a long, long time. It is literally part of the of Genesis for many ancient civilizations, that interdimensional alien shapeshifters actually came here and created humans, or manipulated existing humans and gave them wisdom, similar to the Lucifer story, the torch bearer, the bearer of light to darkness, however you want to interpret that. So throughout history, there were stories of reptilian aliens, Snake Brothers, of Native Americans, people that are familiar with Carlos Castaneda. Again, David Icke talks about the Archons, but so did Carlos Castaneda. His stories were very similar. Mind parasites, some kind of interdimensional mind parasite. And then, of course, David Icke, who actually interviewed African shamans, and we'll actually be getting to those interviews. I tracked down the multi-hour interviews, and I pulled some highlights that we'll be going over. But let's start off first with the wiki, because believe it or not, it is an interesting breakdown here. Reptilians, also called reptoids, Archons, reptiloids, saurians, draconians, or lizard people. And of course, draconians goes back to either Draco, Dracos, Drago, or dragons. Dragons. Were the dragons larger versions of reptilians? Were they relatives? We'll be going into that as well. They are supposed reptilian humanoids which play a prominent role in fantasy, sci-fi, ufology, and conspiracy theories. The idea of reptilians was popularized by David Icke, a conspiracy theorist who claims shape-shifting reptilian aliens control Earth by taking on human form and gaining political power to manipulate human societies. Icke has stated on multiple occasions that many world leaders are possessed by so-called reptilians. And that's another thing, too. Some people believe there's no difference between reptilians and demons, and demonic possession is actually reptilian possession. There's a lot of overlap in a lot of these theories. Some conspiracy theorists espousing The extraterrestrial hypothesis claim they either come from the Draco constellation or the Orion constellation, or are allies with nefarious extraterrestrials from the Orion constellation. Others claim they are interdimensional, coming from another universe or dimension. And also, if we're looking at a flat Earth cosmology, perhaps they just come from across the pond, across the Earth pond, on another pond. I don't know. Are they coming from the lands beyond Antarctica? Michael Barkin, professor of political science at Syracuse University, posits the idea of a reptilian conspiracy originated in the fiction of Conan the Barbarian. Creator Robert E. Howard in the story The Shadow Kingdom, published in Weird Tales in August 1929. This story drew on theosophical ideas of the lost worlds of Atlantis and Lemuria, particularly Helen Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine, written in 1888, with its reference to dragon men who once had a mighty civilization on a Lemurian continent. So not Lemuria itself. See, what does Lemurian continent mean? So if there's another Earth circle with many continents, is one of those Lemuria, which is made up of other continents? If you haven't checked out the Antarctica conspiracy live stream, we went over a lot of those maps. Howard's serpent men were described as humanoids with human bodies and snake heads who were able to imitate humans at will and who lived in underground passages and used their shape-changing and mind control abilities to infiltrate humanity. Clark Ashton Smith used Howard's serpent men in his stories as well as themes from H.P. Lovecraft, and he, Howard, and Lovecraft together laid the basis of the Cthulhu mythos. Now, I do have to do another podcast on that because, yeah, there's a lot of things in there. I mean, clearly, Lovecraft was some kind of initiate because he even had certain names for demons that weren't from ancient works that weren't translated until well after Lovecraft's time. So, anyway, continuing here. In the 1940s, American occultist Maurice Doreal, also known as Claude Doggins, wrote a pamphlet entitled Mysteries of the Gobi that described a serpent race with bodies like man but heads like a great snake and ability to take human form. These creatures also appeared in Doreal's poem The Emerald Tablets, in which he referred to emerald tablets written by Thoth, an Atlantean priest king. Barkin asserts that in all likelihood Doreal's ideas came from the Shadow Kingdom, and that in turn the Emerald Tablets formed the basis of David Icke's book Children of the Matrix. Historian Edward Guimont has argued that the reptilian conspiracy theory, particularly as expounded by Icke, drew from earlier pseudo-historical legends developed during the colonization of Africa, particularly surrounding Great Zimbabwe and the Mokele Membe. Okay, so they completely ignored Carlos Castaneda's work, which are the Native Americans of America, which also have the same stories, as well as many other ancient civilizations, and they kind of pretend it all came from this fictional work, Robert E. Howard. Pretty standard for wiki propaganda, but that's why I like to go over it, because I like to point out how the propaganda is spun specifically to ignore empirically verifiable information and to embed plausible deniability into these narratives to fool all of the gullible coincidence theorists and authority-worshipping cultists who just take Wiki as gospel. And it's not even about Wiki, because most of the stuff Wiki pulls from is literally academic literature. It's not like it's made up by a random person. It's all sourced here from so-called academics, quackademics, whatever you want to call them. Alien abduction narratives sometimes allege contact with reptilian creatures. That's also kind of interesting. One of the earliest reports was that of Ashland, Nebraska police officer Herbert Shermer, who under hypnosis recalled being taken aboard a UFO in 1967 by humanoid beings with a slightly reptilian appearance who wore a winged serpent emblem on the left side of their chests. Skeptics consider his claims to be a hoax. And by skeptics, they mean authority worshipping cultists who are never skeptical of any so-called official narratives. I mean, skeptics is almost like a joke to call someone a skeptic, because they're only skeptical of anything other than the official narratives, because they're such bootlickers and scientism cultists. Like, they don't possess the modicum of logical capability of critical thinking to question official narratives. They can only be skeptical of anything that is against or not part of the so-called official narrative. Conscious Machine 413 said Phil Schneider died after exposing deep underground military bases in alien fight. Yeah, I need to do a podcast on Schneider. He was quite interesting as well. I mean, there's a lot of overlap here. Alright, just give me a second here. Gotta maintain the stream here, make sure we don't get cut out. Just give me a couple seconds here. Okay, we should still be good. Okay. Pinto Sack just got in here. What did you miss? Oh man, you missed some of the most mind-shocking. I rolled out 2 new McGuire theories regarding reptilians. I can't really recap them in 10 words or less. But we are in the middle of going over the Wikipedia propaganda regarding this theory. According to British conspiracy theorist David Icke, who first published on this theme in his 1999 work, The Biggest Secret, tall, blood-drinking, shape-shifting reptilian humanoids from the Alpha Draconis star system, now hiding in underground bases, are the force behind a world conspiracy against humanity. He contends that most of the world's ancient and modern leaders are related to these reptilians, including the Merovingian dynasty, the Rothschilds, the Bush family, and the British royal family. Icke's conspiracy theories now have supporters in up to 47 countries. Wow, they counted. I think it's more than that. And he has given lectures to crowds of up to 6,000 people. American writer Vicky Santillano included Icke's conspiracy theorist in her list of the 10 most popular conspiracy theories. A poll of Americans in 2013 by the Public Policy Polling indicated that 4% of registered voters believed in David Icke's ideas. Notice how they never have the poll and believe in the possibility of the idea. It's either a hard yes or no. There's no room for any critical thinking, deductive reasoning, or logic of any kind. Okay, it's all got to be a false dichotomy. So, do you guys think it's time for a Mike Tyson aside? So, who thinks Mike Tyson is well read? So Tyson has long talked about how he had studied history, the Merovingians specifically. I actually can't find the interview where he specifically mentioned the Merovingians. It was an early interview, one of his maybe first 10 interviews in the mainstream or talk shows, and he specifically mentioned the Merovingian kings. And I actually read a few books on them as well. They're very interesting. I definitely need to do a podcast on that as well. So here's an interesting clip. I'm going to play it here. I was saving it for later, but we actually, I mean, we go over Mike Tyson a lot, but here's an interesting clip here. Oh, wow. YouTube does not want me to play this. Why is it? It's not even showing up as a possibility to put on the screen. Wow. Usually it just won't, it'll show, and then when I click it, it won't work. It's not even showing the mic. Wow. Here, hold on. Let me convert, change the metadata. Let's see if this will work. This is crazy. I don't know what, like, out of all the things to censor, this is a weird one. I mean, I'm not talking about reptilians specifically, but Mike Tyson, this Mike Tyson interview from, I think this, actually, let me see the year on this. This is crazy. I mean, this is just so crazy how they're not, they really don't want me to put this on the screen. This is, like, even the occult NASA patches, it would show up, and then when I would click it, it wouldn't work. This isn't even showing up for me to click it. This is so crazy. It's, I mean, wow. Of all the things they don't want, this is very interesting. Okay. Hold on, I'm almost done. I'm just converting it, changing the metadata, changing the title, so I probably shouldn't have said that that's what I do. That's how I get around the algos. Was I not? I probably shouldn't have said that. We're live though, so I can't cut that out. I'm very honest with the Mindshock listeners. There's always a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. So I will be getting on this on the screen one way or another. One way or another. Okay. It will work. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So this is from the Tyson documentary. Who would have thought Mike Tyson was related to this theory? Now keep in mind, Mike Tyson is very well read. I mean, he reads all about history and conquerors. Actually, you know what? I'm going to play that famous in-ring speech. Hold on. We're going to go crazy with the Mike Tyson stuff. YouTube really doesn't want this clip played. But I'm going to tease a little bit because I'm going to play another one first. I'm going to play another one first before we get to this one. So this is from this clip that they didn't want me to play. Hopefully it'll work, but now that I've changed around a bunch of stuff. This is from the 2008 documentary Tyson, which is actually a great documentary by James Toback. Okay, so here's the famous Tyson speech. This is actually one of my favorite interviews from Tyson. Just give me a second. Gotta change around a few things too. The YouTube algorithms really go after like any channel that even mentions conspiracy. I mean, I don't even claim anything is true or untrue. I mean, are we just not allowed to discuss and ask questions? I mean, it's just crazy. Like, what's the problem with discussion? Okay, so here's this one. So he was well read as early as his teenage years. He read a lot. So check this speech out. It's very interesting. I mean, very eloquent too. I can't recall any other boxer who talks like this.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Mike, was that your shortest fight ever?
I bear witness there's only one God, and Muhammad's blessings and peace be upon him as his prophet. I dedicate this fight to my brother, Darabam, who died. I'll be there to see you. I love you with all my heart. All praise be to my children. I love you. Oh God, man, what?
Is this your shortest fight ever? In any time, amateur, professional, ever?
Assalamu alaikum, Maida. I don't know, man. Yeah, Lennox Lewis. Lennox, I'm coming for you.
Mike, is it frustrating to train like you did and then have this in 7 or 8 seconds?
For this fight, I only trained probably 2 weeks or 3 weeks for this fight. I had to bury my best friend, and I dedicated this fight. I wasn't going to fight. I dedicated this fight to him. I was going to rip his heart out. I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been.
No lies detected.
There's no one can stop me. Lennox is a conqueror. No, I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody as ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from the Air Force. There's no one that can match me. My style is
Are you saying now, Mike, that Mike?
Interesting. Okay. Now that we set the groundwork there, check this out. Everybody put your listening ears on, because Mike Tyson's going to say something very interesting here.
And then I got caught up with this other piece of shit, Don King, who's just a wretched, slimy, reptilian motherfucker, right? This is supposed to be, I got rid of them, and then there's a wretched, slimy, reptilian motherfucker. There's a wretched, slimy, reptilian motherfucker. Wretched, slimy, reptilian motherfucker. Wretched, slimy, reptilian motherfucker. Wretched, slimy, reptilian motherfucker. Right, this is supposed to be my brother, my black brother, right? He's just a bad man. He's a real bad man. He abused you, and he would kill his mother for $1. He's ruthless. He's deplorable. He doesn't know how to love anybody. That's just the way he is.
The greatest country in the world, man. This is America, baby.
And don't forget, this is literally a convicted murderer. A convicted murderer. I mean, this man has murdered people and been convicted. But let's listen to it one more time.
Such a slimy, reptilian motherfucker.
Why did Mike Tyson choose to use those words? I wonder why. Is YouTube playing some buffering games here? Yeah, looks like it. Yeah, they really didn't want me to play this clip. I had to re-encode and change all the metadata just to get this clip up. Not the other clip of him in the ring, but this clip of him calling Don King Reptilian. They did not want it played.
Such a slimy, reptilian motherfucker.
I mean, Mike always keeps it real, doesn't he? Is there anyone more real than Mike Tyson, at least in the sports world? So I thought that was very, very interesting. Just a very interesting choice of words. Out of all the things that Mike Tyson could have called him. I mean, think about that. A guy with the lexicon of Mike Tyson and a guy from the streets. I mean, there's any combination of profanity and multi-syllable intellectual descriptors Mike Tyson could have used. But he chose reptilian or reptilian. Why? How many is, like, who has heard somebody call somebody reptilian or reptilian or whatever pronunciation you want to use? Reptilian. Okay. Who has heard someone say that in the mainstream? Has anyone else heard that? This is from the 2009 documentary Tyson. So, okay. And for those that don't know, Mike Tyson actually did punch him out on at least one occasion. So, well deserved, of course. So, okay. So let's continue back to the wiki propaganda here. I just thought that was an interesting aside. Politics on September 12, 2003, during the provincial election campaign in Ontario, Canada, the Ernie Eves campaign issued a news release that called opponent Dalton McGuinty, wow, an evil reptilian kitten eater from another planet. Hold on, let me get the receipt here. This is right on the Globe and Mail. Here's a nasty note. It was a press release. Interesting. Very interesting. That's 2003. An evil reptilian kitten eater from another planet. The words appeared at the end of the news release. Eve said the epithet was meant as a joke and acknowledged the words were over the top but refused to apologize. I mean, it's always like everybody. I mean, here's a protester sign here. I'm going to put on the screen. This is from the wiki as well. They always kind of pretend somebody was joking. Who noticed that? Whenever certain things are said and there's hoopla brought over it, all of a sudden it's a joke and it wasn't meant seriously. So here's some kind of demonstrator sign. I mean, who thinks there should be more protests like that? Who thinks there need to be more? I mean, that's too innocent of a looking reptile, though. That looks like some kind of iguana that's not harming anybody. But yeah, a lot of times people just pretend something was a joke to write it off. In the closely fought 2008 U.S. Senate election in Minnesota between comedian and commentator Al Franken and incumbent Senator Norm Coleman, one of the ballots challenged by Coleman included a vote for Franken with lizard people written in the space provided for write-in candidates. Lucas Davenport, who later claimed to have written the gag ballot, said, "I don't know if you've heard the conspiracy theory about lizard men. A friend of mine, we didn't like the candidates, so we were at first going to write in revolution because we thought that was good and to the point. And then we thought the lizard people would be even funnier." In February 2011, on the Opie and Anthony radio show, the comedian Louis C.K. jokingly asked former U.S. Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld a number of times if he and Dick Cheney were lizard people who enjoyed the taste of human flesh. Hold on. Let me get the receipt on this because, well, this is kind of on the nose for Opie and Anthony's mainstream. I mean, this is kind of on the nose. I wonder if a clip of this survives. I'm going to try to use my AI. I was working on this AI that can recover deleted videos. It doesn't always work, though. Oh, man. Of course, there's an error here. Come on, work. Darn it. Alright, let me see if this is available on YouTube. Maybe it made it to YouTube. That's kind of on the nose for the mainstream, unless they're trying to hide it in a joke. That's kind of weird. Okay, yes, it is on YouTube. Very interesting. Let's check this clip out. Let's check this out. This is going to be interesting. It's almost like they rolled this out, kind of like the Flat Earth Society and Obama's "We don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society." It's almost like they roll out some of these so-called jokes and gags in an attempt to preempt all the gullible goof coincidence theories, so then they can just point to it being a gag. So they put it out there as a gag, hiding the truth in plain sight, and then that way all the goofs can just easily dismiss it as a gag since it was put out as a gag. Because they don't possess any kind of critical thinking or deductive reasoning to be able to think why that would be done if true. Again, I don't claim it's true or untrue, but if true, would it be done that way? And that's what a lot of goofs, they just don't have the mental capacity to even consider that possibility. The mark of an educated mind is to consider a theory or a concept as true without believing it. Without believing in it. That's actually one of my favorite quotes. It was originally, some people attribute it to Aristotle, but supposedly it was not Aristotle. It was Lowell Benyon. But again, who knows who it really was? I mean, nobody was really around during Aristotle's time. And is there anything new under the sun anyway? So let's look at this, or listen to this interview here that was put out as a supposed so-called gag. Louis C.K. talking to Donald Rumsfeld on the Opie and Anthony show, asking him if he's a reptilian. Let's see how this plays out. This should be interesting. I actually haven't listened to this before. Or maybe I did. I don't remember. It's a really popular show.
Interesting, though, because there are people who think, I mean, here's a guy who, met Eisenhower as a congressman, right?
I was running for Congress, exactly.
And worked for Ford and Nixon and Reagan and both Bushes. And there's still those people out there that think, Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney are actually lizards. Who, I mean, literally, there's people that think they're lizards from outer space.
Yeah, that's true.
Who eat human flesh. I don't know if anybody's ever asked you directly, sir, but are you a lizard?
I don't think
Are
he's a
you
lizard.
actually? Can you just please give that a straight answer?
Because if he were, he would definitely admit that and give a straight answer, right? Right?
Are you a lizard person?
Louis a little left-leaning,
No,
sir.
I'm not. Let him answer. Are you a lizard?
Here's the short answer.
Yeah.
I'm in New York City. I walk down the street. People walk up, shake hands, stop me. They want an autograph.
He's a lizard.
Want to get a photograph with me. Go to eat last night at dinner, and Joyce and I were sitting there in the little
Is he ever going to actually answer the question or get to the point?
Italian restaurant. and a man came
He
up
might
and
be a
said he'd
lizard.
like to buy my dinner, and I
Yeah.
refused. And it turns out I paid for my dinner. The next thing I know, the waiter comes back and said the man insisted to pay for your dinner, and here's your canceled receipt for paying.
Oh, wow, that's
See, there's plenty of people that
But he
you didn't answer the question.
I mean, that was such a political answer, but even with more rambling than usual, even for a political answer, that was a lot of rambling, wasn't it?
He's not going to
I think you're
dignify.
hanging around with the wrong people.
He's not going to dignify an answer to "Are you a lizard, Louis?"
deflected. Why not?
Because
Tell me
he's
no.
not a lizard.
You know what this reminds me of? Who here has investigated the so-called rules of the universe when asked a flat-out question directly? Are certain beings not allowed to lie? Like when asked directly, because obviously they can talk in circles and deceive. But if asked straight, like a yes or no question, are they not allowed to lie? Because I've actually seen that in the occult as well, where they can do all this dancing and brainwashing. But if you notice, now I've noticed this trend as well with, now a regular human who is simply deceived, they could obviously lie. But I'm talking about a true entity. A true non-human entity, are they not allowed to lie? Because if this obviously Satan's the father of lies, but again, if you look at it, it's not like a straight lie. It's a deception and deceiving. He's the great deceiver. He's not the great liar. He's the father of lies, that which, lies are born from that, but it's a deceptive lie. It's not a direct straight lie. And then again, some believe that the rules of the universe, like even if the earth is Satan's domain, they're not, they have to tell the truth. They can't violate a human's free will. So they appeal to the subconscious to trick, and that's where all the symbolism, the predictive programming, all of this subconscious comes into play with the brainwashing and the programming. But again, the revelation of the method, is that not just for kicks? Is that not just for funsies? Because, let's not fall for false dichotomies. It could be for funsies. Serial killers call the police station for fun. You can't catch me, haha, just to play mind games. So if these psychopathic entities, humans or otherwise, they might participate in revelation of the method because they might think it's funny that they showed the dumb humans exactly what they were going to do. And they let them do it anyway, and they were still fooled. So, again, let's not fall for false dichotomies. I'm not saying revelation of the method is only because the rules of the universe might be that way, because no one can violate the great creator, the most high, so to speak. Well, Lord Zed said, I don't know, that's pretty stupid to think that will work. God just like, okay, you got me? Well, no, because, see, God gave man free will. He gave man free will. So it doesn't say he gave demonic entities or the fallen free will. So if who said non-humans have free will? If their will can only be confined in certain areas and in certain rules, perhaps they have to engage in revelation of the method. Perhaps that was one of the handicaps put on the dark forces. Again, we're all speculating. I don't claim anything is true or untrue. I just think it's very interesting that it's almost like, because we've seen it so many times, like even in folklore. Even the whole thing with the vampire needing permission to enter the house. Is that all symbolism for entering the conscious mind? Now, they can play games and try to appeal to the subconscious because that's not the direct will of the conscious mind. So if that's the only card they can play according to the rules of this created world by the creator, if that's the only thing they can do, then that's what they'll do. So if asked directly, this just reminded me of that. Because, this guy's sputtering and stuttering in circles, anything but answering the question directly. Now, maybe he's going to answer it directly now, but I just thought it was interesting how he didn't.
What is this story about getting somebody paid for your dinner? I would pay for a lizard's dinner.
I think I understood the fact that there are people out there that appreciate what he's done as a leader. And
there's plenty of evidence that this guy is a well-decorated and appreciated American. And he has more credibility than almost anybody.
Exactly.
But I just want to know if he's a lizard.
He's not a lizard. Stop it. I want to apologize, Mr. Rumsfeld. Louis C.K. is a stand-up comedian, and I do not share his ideology one iota.
Matter of fact, we're meeting him for the first time. We don't even really know him, so we apologize.
Exactly.
It's usually just me and Anthony, but we said, what the hell, we'll try out this local comic.
Mr. Rumsfeld, I want to ask you a little bit about the situation that's going on now in the Middle East. You are an envoy to the Middle East.
So, question not answered. Questions not answered. This goes on for a bit.
At least, what do you see happening there? What's your take on the whole situation?
Well, I think what's happening is that we had good relations with many of the governments in there, in that region, and it was contributing to a stable situation with respect to the generally hostile attitude towards Israel, organized and very vicious,
Listen,
like Hezbollah in Lebanon, and or like the Ayatollahs in Iran.
Yeah.
So you could get the Muslim Brotherhood.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
Radical extremists.
Exactly.
Over Egypt, which would be terribly dangerous.
Absolutely.
Listen, and these are great questions, Anthony, and they're questions that that Mr. Rumsfeld is going to answer better than almost anybody in the world.
Yeah.
But I still want to know if he's a lizard and if he is.
Stop it.
If he's tasted human flesh.
No, stop.
I just want to know.
Mr. Rumsfeld, again, I want to apologize for Louis C.K. He's a stand-up comedian. He's playing at the Borgata.
It's
go to
a legitimate. Look, if he's a lizard who has eaten people,
don't encourage him. It'll just make him worse.
What? Don't encourage him. It'll make him worse. Worse, as in he already engages in this. What? Oh, I just got the joke. Big Pine Sailing. Have you eaten McDonald's? Donald Rumsfeld, McDonald. Donald's.
I will stop the
Mr.
second I
Rumsfeld.
get a denial. I'll stop asking.
Tell Louis that my grandchildren are listening.
Look how he refuses to answer the question. This is really weird. He was asked a direct question several times now, and his response is, my grandchildren are listening. So if he can't lie, his options are to say yes, if he is, or to divert and deflect. That was even more curious than his first rambling answer. He can't say he's not a reptilian. He can't say he doesn't eat human flesh because his children. Why would he not be able to deny that if his children are listening? Now, if he were to confirm that, he wouldn't want to do that if his children are listening. Heracles, that is absolutely sickening. Heracles says McDonald's has been found to have human meat in their food many times. I actually haven't seen that. I've seen the claims about that. I haven't seen a verification of that. I didn't really dig deep into that. That's one. Unfortunately, I have eaten at McDonald's a couple times in the distant past. I mean, I can only hope that McDonald's was co-opted like everything else and wasn't founded with that in there, because that would be absolutely sickening. But I guess, got to do some really long fasts to purge that from the system. That was many, many years ago. I don't eat any fast food or any of that garbage for, many, many years. Not because of the conspiracies, just because it's garbage. I mean, why would you want to put garbage in your body? You are what you eat, right? So, yeah. Yeah, that is sickening. I actually don't even know if I want to go down that rabbit hole, because I wouldn't be surprised if it were true, but it's, Soylent Green. I mean, it's just, a lot of these movies predicted all this stuff. I think, was it Five Guys burgers? That's supposedly literally Five Guys. I mean, that's kind of nasty. I saw a conspiracy about that. Again, I haven't seen anything verified, but.
See?
Well, listen, they have a right to know, too.
No, he's not a lizard, and he's not tasted human flesh.
But you're answering. That's easy for you to say.
I can answer because I know the guy is a great American, a great.
What does one have to do with the other?
Patriot.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
He's done great things for this country, and
yes, Anthony, is he a lizard? Is Dick Cheney a lizard?
No, they're not. They are people.
Any Mexican babies? Have they eaten any human beings?
Stop it. Stop it. I know, Mr.
Where's the answer? There's no denial at all.
Rumsfeld, I apologize.
I mean, would you expect him to say, "Of course not"? That's nonsense. I mean, isn't that the political correct answer? Not to divert and dodge and deflect. This is weird. This is weird. I mean, even certain politicians that don't deny it, because there are some that say, no, of course not, that's silly. But there are others who say things like, that's preposterous, but they don't answer the question.
Louis
He's not doing any of that here. This is very strange.
C.K.
I paid for this microphone, mister.
He's
I
trying
want
to
an
be
answer.
funny. I don't understand it. Where do you see the
Why won't you let him
where do you
answer?
see the 2012 elections going? Do you see the Republicans taking the White House again? And who do you see as maybe a good front runner for the Republicans?
You know, I don't think there is one. I think it's one of those rare times when there's not an incumbent
It looks like he's really happy to not be answering that question.
president running, and there's not a vice president running, and there's not a obvious person. And
Yeah.
I think what we ought to do is watch them run around the track a while and see how they handle things. It's a tough job, and we're going to then be able to see how their brains work, how they react, how they handle things, what kind of people they recruit for their campaign team, how effective they are in organizing. And all of those are attributes that are helpful for a president.
Before the Lizard Council meets
All right,
and
Louis.
decides who to appoint.
This is actually kind of hilarious how they're just trolling Rumsfeld. This is so hilarious, actually.
Lizard Council doesn't appoint a president, and he's not part of the Lizard
If
Council.
they do, don't you want to know?
No.
Don't you at least want to give him a chance to say, no, I'm not a lizard?
I don't want to picture Donald Rumsfeld on the other end of this phone
Nobody
listening
does.
to you asking
With red lizard
questions.
eyes.
No, he's not with Mr. Rumsfeld.
Generation and future generations, unless people have the courage to step up and deal with it.
I mean, this is kind of hilarious how he's just refusing to answer.
What was it like when you met? There's a picture of you shaking hands with Saddam Hussein. Like, what was that day like? The day you met that dude.
Oh, that famous picture.
The dude who
yes.
later was hung in a badly lit room.
I tried to tell Louis that was indeed during the time when he was
That does not.
an
I'm just
ally
curious what that
and-
day was
and-
like.
And was okay.
I'm just
all right.
curious. What was that like
fair
to
enough.
meet that fella?
Fair enough.
Well, it was. I was in Baghdad at the request of President Reagan, and I kind of described this in my book. I met the night before with Tariq Assis, the deputy prime minister, and then the next morning I was invited in to be with Saddam Hussein. And the reason that Secretary Shultz and President Reagan and I all agreed that it made sense was Saddam Hussein was in a war with Iran and had taken our embassy people hostage and was very hostile to the United States. The United States did not have diplomatic relations with Iraq, and the thought was
Something else is here with an interesting comment in the chat. Louis trying to get under his skin or scales any way he can. Wow.
that we, you know, the old adage, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Right.
How did we manage to get crossways with the two big countries in that region, both of them, and yet they were hostile to each other?
Right.
So we felt that it was a good idea to see if we could reestablish relations, and that ultimately was done shortly after my visit. Now, what was it like? You walk in, there's a Middle Eastern despot. Is he a good guy or a Democrat? No. He's a thug, and he's in fatigues, and he's got a pistol on his hip, and he's a tough guy and not a good guy. On the other hand, people in Iran were worse, and when you get up in the morning and look around the world, you know, there are not a lot of George Washingtons or Abraham Lincolns. We have to deal with people who aren't perfect on occasion.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to tell Louis.
And then, so how many guys do you think you've met that died by hanging?
Oh, Jesus,
That's a good question.
Yeah, more than one.
Yeah.
More than one.
More than one. See?
Yeah.
I've never met anybody who. I met a girl who hung herself. But I've never met anybody who was sentenced to hanging.
He's had to deal with thugs during his
Political
yes.
systems and
One second. Something weird going on my end here. Just give me a second. It's like a weird ad was just ad music was playing into my headset for some reason from nowhere. That was kind of creepy. I mean, it was kind of elevator music-ish. Did anybody else hear that, or was that just me? I don't know where that came from. I thought it was this, getting some kind of crosstalk feedback from some kind of elevator music. I wonder if it has. Did anybody else hear that? It was just not me. Okay, nobody else heard it. Yeah, it was weird. That was weird. What is going on with YouTube? Wow.
And that means that we have got to have intelligence gathering activities if we're going to protect the American people.
Exactly.
But what, like...
Pinto Sack says only reptiles heard it. So it's a reptile? It's a reptilian whistle? Wow. Are you accusing me of being reptilian?
Okay, American safety is like the biggest deal to us. American defense. We've got to keep the American people safe. But what if a whole lot of people in other places have to die in order for us to be safe? Like, what if you found out that a lot of America was going to get hurt unless we just took France and just wiped it out? Would you trade France?
Hypothetical.
Would you trade France for Texas and Arizona?
Can you imagine if I answered that question?
Thank you.
What the news lead would be?
He doesn't like answering any direct questions. That's interesting.
Exactly.
It would be like the answering your earlier question, where I would deny that I'm something that you asked me.
Right.
So he's saying he would deny, but he's not denying. So he's saying he would deny, but he didn't actually deny.
He's not going to deny.
I mean, this guy's truly a politician.
He's a lizard,
but he hasn't officially denied it.
What would be hurt by denying that you're a lizard?
I did not just arrive in town falling off a turnip.
There are no turnip carts in New York City.
Well, he didn't fall off of one.
No,
regardless.
I totally understand. But no, that's fascinating to me. What would be hurt by denying? And I'm not going to ask you to deny it now. I'm more interested in what would be hurt if you denied that you're a lizard.
He's justifying the question.
Sorry, I brought it up. I apologize.
No.
But I mean, we like to think that we're a comedy show, so we're just kind of asking a
But
silly question
that
there,
is
Mr.
fascinating
Rumsfeld.
to me that saying I am not a lizard might be dangerous. I want to know how it might hurt. Wait, how would it hurt your credibility?
This happened.
How did this happen?
There's a guy laughing in the background that is looking up our addresses now.
Mr. Rumsfeld, notice that Anthony Cumia is...
Something else is here saying Rummy probably had his handler sitting across from him giving him nods on what he can or can't answer. Yeah, probably.
True patriot.
I am right behind you. I love your book, Donald Rumsfeld, Known and Unknown Memoir, in bookstores now. This thing really flying off the shelves, too.
I want to ask Mr. Rumsfeld his opinion on the unions right now. It's a big topic right out there.
Well, it is, and what we've got is a government, an administration, that, according to the data, has fewer people who've ever been in business than any administration in modern history. And what you've got is a lot of people who are lawyers and professional government people, and they don't have the business background. They have very close connections to the unions, and I'm terribly worried about the.
Well, he's got a very distinctive voice. I know you could always tell Donald Rumsfeld when he was on TV,
right.
Even from the other room. You have a very strong, distinct voice. I have a couple of questions just out of curiosity I want to ask you.
Just an observation.
Mr. Rumsfeld. What type of aircraft did you fly?
I was flying, the last plane I flew was an S-2F, which was a Grumman anti-submarine plane.
Oh, that's cool.
Did you have more capability to fly it because of your lizard reflexes?
Stop it!
I've got a thought for you.
Okay, good.
Folks are looking.
Are you an avid shooter? Because I am, and I love it.
I have guns. I have rifles and shotguns and pistols and at various locations, and I'm an elk hunter out in New Mexico.
So you're a strong advocate of the Second Amendment, as I am, sir.
Have you ever shot Have you ever shot a person?
No.
No.
That's a great question.
Wow, he answered that quick. He said no, he had never shot a person. Huh. That's curious. He didn't even hesitate. I mean, there might not even have been time to check with the handler.
No, I think everybody should be asked that.
No one have you shot
Have you
a
ever shot
person?
some? He was the Secretary
terrible.
of Defense. He was in charge of everybody that America killed for a very long time.
Oh, stop it.
I've been shot at. Does that count?
He's been shot at. That's
I was
crazy.
right next to President Ford when the bullet went right by his head and right by my head into the hotel in San Francisco.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. That was that crazy.
Were you ever shot
that
at
was that
with any
Manson broad.
other, besides bullets, like plasma rays or anything else
No,
that
it's
are
no
used
space
to take
Would
down
you stop it, Louis?
flesh-eating
My God.
space lizards
My God, man.
who eat the poor?
Donald Rumsfeld, Known and Unknown, a memoir. I suggest anybody that's interested in the history of this fine country and the history of a patriot and this fine man, go out and buy this book. Thank you, Donald Rumsfeld. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Enjoy being with you.
I'm pretty sure you're a
Thanks, sir.
lizard.
He's not a lizard. Stop it.
Pretty
Thank
sure
you,
he
sir.
ate people once.
You should select your partners carefully.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying.
Just a local comic, sir, that we really don't know much about.
Yeah, I don't know
He'll be
him.
gone tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Donald Rumsfeld, everyone.
There he is, Donald Rumsfeld. Quick, hang up the phone. Oh, my God. Oh, my dear sweet Jesus.
I can't believe you didn't let him answer.
Why would
Why
he
did you
not? Because he wasn't ever going to answer.
Why not
that he
just
was
at
not.
least,
Just say I'm not a lizard.
hear his not answering? At
He
least
did.
hear the silence
He
of
did.
not answering.
He said I wouldn't answer that because
I
it
didn't
gives
get
the...
to hear because you kept talking with other questions over
I'm
him not
gonna
answering.
sit there and listen to the former secretary.
So I just had an interesting thought and theory here. Now, I can't tell which one's Opie and which one's Anthony. I mean, they're both kind of goofs. But it's almost like one of them, is it possible one of them doesn't even realize the other one is their handler? So one of them is the handler that steers accordingly without the knowledge of the other. And how often would that be done? It seems like that'd be a lot more useful than having both guys in. It'd be a lot safer than having both guys in on it. In certain situations with certain individuals, certain personalities. It seems like that, and this just reminded me of that because it's almost, I mean, I don't know, maybe they're just that great of actors, but the frustration almost seemed genuine. And that just reminded me that there's a lot of TV shows and radio shows that have a similar dynamic where it almost seems like it would be very difficult for the acting to be that good. So it almost seems like one of them possibly wouldn't know. But again, just a theory. I haven't really heard too many people discuss that.
Secretary of Defense try to defend that he's not a lizard.
Why?
By
Why
you.
wouldn't you?
Why?
Because
Why wouldn't you want to live that moment?
Because first of all, he's not a lizard.
Why do you
Secondly,
want to be baby CNN instead of the only show that...
How would he know he's not a lizard, though? Like, how would he, did he do a DNA? Like, how would he actually know?
finally got the guy to say, okay, look, I'm going to finally say something about this lizard shit.
You know what? He
But we didn't
handled
get to
it
hear it.
like a gentleman and like a professional.
He handled it like a lizard who knows how to never answer.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like this guy's not in on it. Like this is yeah, Louis C.K. See, like again, maybe he's a shill, maybe he's a phenomenal answer. He's a phenomenal actor, but the way he's talking here, I mean, it's interesting.
Oh, he said, "I'm not going to answer."
Did you hear at one point, and I wish you'd almost... If he has eaten human flesh, we better find out. If he is a lizard, we better know, because he's coming back.
If he ate Mexican babies, you asked Donald Rumsfeld if he ate Mexican babies.
If I was in his position, I would be I'd be happy for the opportunity to acquit myself on that.
Come on,
on that issue.
The guy doesn't have to.
What the fuck is it hurt a person to say no? I am not a lizard. No,
Because
I haven't
then-
eaten a Mexican baby.
Because then somebody in the press can write, when asked if he was a lizard,
yeah,
Donald Rumsfeld replied,
told a story about the guy buying him dinner.
Gag disorder in the chat said it's compartmentalized knowledge.
What the fuck kind of a denial is that?
It's not.
What the fuck kind of denial is that?
No one would buy dinner for a lizard in a restaurant.
I believe
he
that
was
the
saying
that
he was
the
answering you
lizard,
through his story.
I believe that the space lizard baby eaters
He's not a space lizard.
he and Dick Cheney have some weird thing where they can't lie about it.
Listen,
where if asked direct.
Heracles says this was before Lewis got his own show. He changed later in his career. Yeah, I don't know anything about this guy actually. This guy slipped under the radar for me. I mean, I've heard his name mentioned, but I actually haven't really listened to it. This is probably the longest I've ever, other than like short little commercial clips, which I didn't pay attention to. this was the longest I've ever heard him talk.
Do they have to say yes?
Oh, you think that's a
They
thing?
can either not answer or
Oh, wow. That's kind of a sick ant. Conscious Machine 413 says he was saying people who buy you dinner know. Wait, what was in the dinner that was bought for him? Because they asked him if he ate human flesh, and he's talking about a guy buying him dinner. That's weird. Because he could have given a story that has nothing to do with eating anything, but he gave that particular story. That's kind of weird.
they can't say, or they have to say yes. If
So
they say,
they-
do anything, tell a story about someone buying you dinner.
So you're saying that there's something ingrained
Yes.
in the lizardness that keeps him from saying,
From just saying, no, of course not.
Whoa, they're just going through my theory. This is crazy. I hadn't listened to this before. There's something ingrained in the lizard that prevents them from saying no, but I would say prevents them from lying, or lying to a direct question. Yeah, this is crazy because, again, I don't know if I've ever read anything super explicit other than, you know, the vampire entering your home, they need permission, and little bits and pieces here where if a demon or some kind of entity is ever, a non-human entity, is ever asked a direct question, a direct yes or no question, they are not allowed to lie. So they might be able to not answer at all, but they can't actually lie because that's some kind of direct violation of the human will or something of that nature. Or if the creator didn't give them free will, one of the rules is that they can't directly lie when asked direct questions.
Not.
They can't do that. Elected. He was.
Sure.
He's a great man.
Sure.
Yeah.
Donald Rumsfeld, great man. That's what I say. That's my take on
look
him.
at his fucking face.
It's he's a handsome
That
man.
is an easy mask
Look
to
at the
zip
back.
on and off.
Look
if
at
I've
the
ever seen one.
back. He's not zipping
I've ever
it. You
seen-
think he's zipping it over his lizard
yes,
head?
every few years they update it so he ages.
You know what's kind of crazy? I'm thinking he's a shill for sure now, because they rolled out the mask and aging, and the tidbit of him not being able to admit he's a lizard as part of the lizard. There's no, how can he know all that without being initiated? Unless he does a lot of reading in his free time. I'm kind of still going through this direct question line of reasoning. There's something that's making me think about that. I think there might be something to that. So direct means to guide. Like literally a movie director, etc. If God made man in his own image, so the image of a creator, director, supervisor, controller. Direct etymology here, 1400, straight, undeviating, not crooked. To set straight, to guide, or keep straight. The action of directing or guiding. Freedom, so directness, etymology here from the 1590s, straightness from the 1610s, freedom from ambiguity. So if the demons are all deceivers, and ambiguity is their realm, a direct question would be the exact opposite of how they operate. So if I think there's something here. Call me crazy. Call me crazy. I think there's something to this. I might have to do a follow-up episode on this. There seems to be something to this. And it's almost like if Louis C.K. is controlled op, Because how does he know all these things? So it's almost like, again, some kind of disclosure, revelation of the method. They're changing masks every few years to make them age. There's something in their lizard DNA or whatever that prevents them from answering that, which I don't think that, I would say there's something in their DNA that prevents them from lying to a direct question from a true human. Okay, so let's go back to the wiki here. On March 4th, 2013, a video depicting a security agent with unusual features guarding a speech by U.S. President Barack Obama was spotlighted in a Wired report about shape-shifting reptilian humanoids. This led to a tongue-in-cheek response from the Chief National Security Council spokeswoman Caitlin Hayden, who said, quote, any alleged program to guard the president with aliens or robots would likely have to be scaled back or eliminated in the sequester. What? That's interesting. But again, so aliens are robots, but not reptilians. Not interdimensional reptilian shapeshifters. So it was specifically referencing aliens or robots. So again, another dodge. October 2022, Dutch MP Thierry Baudet, head of the far-right Forum for Democracy, said in an interview with the Geopolitics and Empire podcast that he believes the world is being governed by evil reptiles. That's kind of out in the open. So this is the Dutch MP? Huh. See if we can get a a video here. Give me a second. I think I got it. One more second. I'm gonna bring it up right here. This is kind of out in the open. This is kind of weird. This is kind of weird.
So I'm
It's a funny freeze frame.
I'm a conspiracy theorist. I believe that we are being governed by a global conspiracy of evil reptiles. My view is that the only global player who is opposing that is Vladimir Putin. So I'm a fan of Vladimir Putin. I think he is the Dark Knight. He is the hero we need. He is the man who is exposing the globalists. That's what he's already doing. So basically, the special military operation is already a success because he's exposing the beast. And I think he's going to win. And if he wins, then it will mean the defeat of the globalist movement of the. So I'm a conspiracy theorist. I believe that we are being governed by a global conspiracy of evil reptiles, governed by a global conspiracy of evil reptiles, governed by a global conspiracy of evil reptiles.
Oh wow, my mic was muted. Big Pine Sailing, good call. So this is kind of crazy and out in the open for the Dutch MP. So again, is this all revelation of the method? The Dutch MP was 2022. It was pretty recent. Is the audio still good? Is the audio good for everybody? There's a weird delay on YouTube with the chat as well. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of on the nose, possibly. And the wiki article rounds out with some adherents of the QAnon conspiracy theory have also borrowed from the reptilian conspiracy theory, including elements shared in anti-Semitism conspiracy theories, which is a rabbit hole we will not be going down for now. Okay, so here's another major mind shock. So again, I think the truth is hidden in plain sight. Plain sight? I don't know. But for those familiar with the work of John Keel, who actually drew on Jacques Vallée regarding UFOs, Men in Black, abduction, that the mind of the abductee is what is being attacked. And if you haven't checked out the Mothman series, I have the most comprehensive podcast series on the Mothman of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and supposedly some of the first sightings of the Men in Black, UFOs, and even Bigfoot sightings regarding the Mothman case as well. So, yeah. Here's another mind-shocking theory. Why? Actually, we might have to go into... I'm trying to get the best way to summarize this, because... So the Toltec Native Americans... I'm trying to, again... I mean, it gets so complicated. I don't want to do a 5-hour aside on the Toltecs. But Carlos Castaneda and Don Miguel Ruiz talk about the Toltec way and the mind parasite, similar to, let's say, the Archons. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go through it because this is Mindshock and we have to be comprehensive. Comprehensive and exhaustive is the name of the game here, so buckle in, folks. We're going down the Toltec path. So this is an article by Aubrey Marcus, February 14, 2017, The Toltec Way to Ruthless Self-Love. It's actually a pretty good summary here, so it won't take that long, but we do have to go down this. The Toltec concepts of the warrior, the dream of the world, and the parasite form much of my paradigmatic worldview. In addition, Toltec philosophers Carlos Castaneda and Don Miguel Ruiz penned 2 of my top 10 books. Here is a shorthand version of how the Toltec way ultimately leads to ruthless self-love. So para means closely related, or, I mean, it's weird because even according to Webster, there's so many different definitions here, which is very confusing. Beside, alongside, beyond, or aside from, or closely related to, or involving substitution at or characterized by 2 opposite positions in the benzene ring that are separated by 2 carbon atoms, and obviously carbon, the makeup of humans, or faulty or abnormal, or associated in a subsidiary or accessory capacity, or closely resembled. So that's tough. That, I mean, it's so tough to dissect that. Definition of parasite, again, site, S-I-T-E, S-I-G-H-T, both similar phonetically. The phony phonetics of the Phoenicians, always at play here, whether you're talking on the phone or just being phony. An organism living in or with another organism in order to obtain nutrients, grow, or multiply, often in a state that directly or indirectly harms the host. So why would that not be able to occur on a mental, energetic level? Why would that only be physical nutrients? Why wouldn't there be able to be some kind of interdimensional, mental, energetic parasite? So okay, get this. So from etymology, Etymonline, parasite, 1530s, a hanger-on, a toady person, T-O-A-D-Y, a person who lives on others. Parasitus in Latin, toady, or sponger. Toady, that's interesting. Huh. Toady also means loathsome, or a tailless amphibian. Loathsome. Now, I hope you guys are strapped in here, because in Middle English, the toad is supposedly a perfectly harmless, useful bug eater in gardens, but was long regarded as loathsome and malevolent, sometimes a symbol of the devil himself. mentioned in Middle English texts along with dragons as among the horrors awaiting the damned in hell, and even souls in purgatory were said to be gnawed by toads. The word was applied to loathsome persons from the 1560s. Now, whose mind is shocked right now? So, parasite literally means toady, a symbol of the devil related to dragons. I mean, we are getting deep into Mindshock land. I mean, this is why I always spend so much time on definitions and etymology, because if the truth is hidden in plain sight, it's literally in the words. The world, the word of the world. The world is the word. So parasite, living on or at the expense of another, is parasitism, 1840. But parasitic, again, from Latin, toady is parasite. So let's keep all of this in mind when we go to this Toltec breakdown here from Aubrey Marcus on aubreymarcus.com. Toltecs, tribe or artists. Concerning the Toltec, there is a bit of scholarly debate between whether the Toltecs were an actual tribe from the Tula Hidalgo or simply a term given to a variety of ethnic groups that reached a level of artistry and mastery to be given the name Tolteca, which literally translates to artist or wise man, and shaman also means wise man. Sha means wise. So that's also interesting that artist is synonymous with wise man, according to Tolteca. Either way, their peak was a period from 300 to 600 AD in the city of Teotihuacan, which in comparison makes Chichen Itza look like playground equipment. Mitote, the big dream. The Toltec people view our experience here in the world like a co-created dream. They call it the mitote, which is like 1,000 tiny voices in our head telling us what to do. It is the voice of our parents, the voice of society, the voice of culture, the voice of authority. But the most devastating voice is something internal they call the parasite. Toady. The parasite, judge and victim. The parasite is part of our mind that is formed as a response to the mitote. It encompasses two main parts, the judge and the victim. The judge is always judging our personality and our actions against the impossible standards of the dream. We try to portray ourselves as perfect to fit in with the dream, and any time we fall short, our inner judge is there to punish us. It is the judge that says, I need a nose job, I'm not smart enough, I'm not cool enough, I'm not big enough. The judge abuses us for falling short of the mitote's standards of creating a self-fulfilling theme of inadequacy. The victim is another program that says, woe is me, expletive of my life, everyone is out to get me, I have the worst luck. It saps the creative power of our intent and belief and robs us of our passion to fight. The parasite is almost exactly what Stephen Pressfield calls resistance in the book Way of Art. It is what I called in my Iboga experience Mind Boy. Mitote and Parasite, counter forces of destiny. This dream, this mitote, steers us away from our highest potential. If we are not aware of the dream and the parasite, we will be controlled unconsciously by them. Let me say that again. If we are not aware of the dream and the parasite, we will be controlled unconsciously by them. Rather than living out our true identity and swinging our authentic swing, we will be pleasing the judge, pandering to the victim, and abiding by the mitote. We are, in essence, on automatic pilot. If we are overweight, the victim will say that it isn't our fault, so we will continue to eat excessively. If we are in an abusive relationship, the judge will say we deserve to be abused, so we will continue to be abused. Or perhaps we will float along in somnambulance and continue to make decisions that fit within the rules of the dream. Wake up, drink coffee, work a job we hate, go home, drink beer, watch TV, take an Ambien, wake up, repeat. The point is largely an illusion, or at least trivial at best. We are subject to the throes of any normal sleeping dream. Every day has the potential to be a nightmare. Awareness. Turning the dream lucid. You know what's interesting too, aware, the etymology of aware is a guard or watchman, oros in Greek. A sentry or a keeper, so you have to constantly be on your guard, watchful and vigilant, wary and cautious. Not simply like eyes, not simply observing, but specifically cautious, watchful, vigilant, wary. Aware, wary, awareness. Very interesting. Also, wary can also come from war, wars. Are we always at war? A war? Aware. Aware of the war? What is the real war with these mind parasites? Lord Zed said, so the princess kissed the toad and started tripping on DMT and thought the frog turned into a prince, or there's a toad that turns into a dude or shapeshifts. Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah, the frog prince, the reptilian ruler. Huh. The Toad Prince? Is it the Dark Prince? Huh. Prince means first. Interesting. Okay. Awareness turning the dream lucid. The best dreams are often those that we can use our unlimited imagination to control. We call them lucid dreams. To have a lucid dream, you must become aware that you are dreaming. In other words, be aware of all ways in which the mitote influences you. Since the mitote is incredibly complicated, to be aware, you have to become a master tracker. You track your emotional and subconscious reactions. You track the voice of the judge and the whimper of the victim. You track the voices of the dream and how they have influenced you. Did you really want to get married, or was that someone else's dream? Even if you did want to get married, did you make an agreement that was authentic between you? Or did you just do what the government and the church recommended? Is a funeral the way you want to mourn the passing of a loved one, or is it just what everyone does? Is jealousy an instinct or a learned behavior? When you learn how to track, you will have the gift of sight. When you can see, then you can start to change your reality. Controlling the dream, warrior hunters. While we may not be able to control the dream of the world, we can certainly control how that dream affects us, which is what truly matters. We do this by a combination of belief and intent, which are inexorable. Simply put, belief fuels intent. You set your intent and then believe it into existence. It's also interesting in French, intent comes from entente, an understanding. Intention or attention. Intention. Huh. But belief requires doing work. To have enough belief to generate manifestation, you have to believe it with every cell of your being. And in order to do that, you have to put in the work to gain that confidence. Then the magic can happen. My good friend TJ Dillashaw believed he could beat Renan Barao, even though he was a 9-1 underdog. But the real reason he believed it was that he put in the work, years of blood, years of sweat. It's so interesting that this writer is friends with TJ Dillashaw. Okay, the cultivation of the skills of mastery. So please spare me the expletive of saying, so if I believe I'm going to be a millionaire, does that mean I'll be a millionaire? Because there's no way you would actually believe you might become a millionaire unless you were putting in the work necessary to becoming one. Either that or you are completely pathological, which is only one layer of belief. What does pathological mean? The path of the logical? Pathological? As your highest self is not a part of that pathology. The parasite will be there to resist you every step of the way. It will keep you chained to the phantom manacles of the mitote. It will continue to judge you and play the victim. It will thwart your intent, shake your belief system, and keep you from receiving inspiration. Even when you put in the work, the parasite will say you aren't ready yet, that you don't deserve it. If you don't believe you deserve it, then you won't receive it. One of my favorite stories comes from a poker player who asked his mentor if he could ever win the World Series. The mentor replied, "You'll win the World Series when you won't be surprised that you won the World Series." That's an interesting answer as well. Very interesting. Huh. That is interesting. Chameleon, a lizard-like reptile notable for its ability to change color. Huh. Also, in Greek, kamalos, the root of chameleon, means on the ground creeping. Creeping. Weird. Kamai means on the ground. Huh. Connections to earth and the ground. Under the earth? Underground? Yeah, a lot of interesting etymology here. Okay, so there are a lot of people with equivalent skill sets and work ethic, but those who can defeat the parasite will harness their true potential. That is why the Toltecs teach you that you must become a warrior. The warrior is a master hunter, and she hunts the parasite within herself daily. That's actually kind of interesting. A warrior, aware. A warrior is aware. Aware of the parasite, aware of the war within. Interesting. Huh. Now, one of the roots of war is wers, W-E-R-S, to confuse or mix up, to bring into confusion. That sounds like a mental thing and not a physical thing. Huh. Interesting. Very, very interesting. A lot of these mind games of the parasite are definitely confusing. The warrior's secret weapon, love. It is a state of complete autonomy and freedom. You know what's also interesting? In tennis, love is played from no score. So love is 0 or nothing in tennis. Huh. Because if love is 0 or nothing, it's almost like a meditative state where there's no good or bad. It's devoid of anything. So it can't be manipulated by parasites or whatever. Huh, interesting. Continuing the article here, it is a state of complete autonomy and freedom. So if you're freedom from positive or negative, then there's nothing. Carlos Castaneda says, no one is doing anything to anyone, let alone a warrior. He is in control of his mental state. She regularly slays the parasite. The warrior sets his intent, believes it into existence, and cuts the chain of the mitote. The key to getting to this state is ruthless self-love. This is where Don Miguel Ruiz comes in. Ruthless self-love is loving yourself so much that you don't permit anything else but impeccable self-love. Loving yourself too much to indulge the victim or be judged by the judge. Loving yourself too much to abuse yourself or to be abused. Accepting no less than 100% love from yourself. Then what else is there for the parasite to exploit? What need do you have for approval from the world, from society, or your parents? You can enjoy the love of everyone else fully because you are not afraid of losing it. You have no fear because you are not lacking in love of yourself. You will accept the love of your partners completely because you will feel you deserve it. You will give them love completely because you have love in abundance. If the judge cannot remove love because love is unconditional, then what is there to fear? If you are full of love, upon what grounds can the victim find footing? You become free when you have ruthless, unconditional self-love. You become a warrior of love. How do you get to ruthless unconditional self-love? Radical forgiveness. And just a quick aside here, supposedly these parasites, demons, etc., they feed off fear and negative emotions. So if you don't give them that, I think I talked about this in the Shadow People podcasts, if you just drown them with feelings of love, they will run for the hills because they can't handle that energy. They want the negativity and the fear. That's their fuel. So fear actually comes from fair, F-E-R-E or F-A-E-R, which means sudden danger, peril, or sudden attack. I mean, that's kind of interesting. It's not like an emotion. It's a sudden attack or peril. That's very curious, and that's what the word is root for. So is it like demonic attack? Faraz, Proto-Germanic, and there's also Old Saxon far, F-A-R, which means ambush, or harm, distress, or deception. That's actually very curious that fear comes from far, which is deception. That's very interesting. Just the overlays here. Not as some kind of an emotion or response, but literal deception is the root here. Very, very interesting. Is anybody else mind shocked here? I mean, if you really pay attention to all the overlaps, it's quite curious. But continuing here, radical forgiveness becoming the warrior. Heraclitus said, "No man steps into the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and he is not the same man." You can decide right now to forgive yourself, not just for the past, but for the future. To say to yourself, you are always forgiven. You can do this right now because you are not bound to the past. You can enter the zero state of radical forgiveness, zero, love in tennis, right now and start fresh with 100% ruthless self-love, a love that demands the best of you, yet loves you unconditionally. The Hawaiian Kuanas, the shamans, have a practice for radical forgiveness they call Ha'oponopono. It requires you to say 4 things to yourself. Thank you. I'm sorry. I love you. Forgive me. Say it to yourself now. Thank you. I'm sorry. I love you. Forgive me. Now imagine all of the things you judge yourself for. Think about everything you beat yourself up about. Keep saying it, keep meaning it, like a fighter landing the jab over and over again. Eventually, you will vanquish the parasite and reach radical forgiveness. Then you will have to do it again. Remember, the warrior is someone who does battle with the parasite every day. Thank you, I'm sorry, I love you, forgive me. You are a seer, you are a warrior, you have ruthless self-love. Set your intent, believe it. This is the Toltec way. So here's a quote from Carlos Castaneda. It's a long one. This is from the active side of infinity. We have a predator that came from the depths of the cosmos and took over the rule of our lives. Now, cosmos means the universe, the world. Not specifically some kind of heliocentric system. Could be a realm of some sort. Also, cosmian, the verb, Latinized Greek, means to order or arrange troops for battle, as if this is always some kind of battleground for good and evil. It's kind of interesting that that's what cosmos means. Also, in Christian religious writing, cosmos was used as the worldly life, this world as opposed to the afterlife. So again, not some kind of infinite space, but simply this world, this realm. But continuing Castaneda's quote here, we have a predator that came from the depths of the cosmos. So what does depths mean? Does that mean beyond the outer reaches of Antarctica? Beyond the outer circle? And took over the rule of our lives. Human beings are its prisoners. The predator is our lord and master. That's interesting. Predator, predator. What does it predate? Does it predate all of known history, his story? Huh. That's very interesting. Predator also means to seek prey, and it actually comes from pre-exist. Predate, to antedate, to assign an earlier date than to the actual time. To exist before, be from an earlier date. Predate, predator, predator. Very interesting stuff here. The predator is our lord and master. It has rendered us docile and helpless. If we want to protest, it suppresses our protest. If we want to act independently, it demands that we don't do so. I have been beating around the bush all this time, insinuating to you that something is holding us prisoner. Indeed, we are held prisoner. This was an energetic fact for the sorcerers of ancient Mexico. And again, sorcerers of the source of creation. They took us over because we are food for them. They squeeze us mercilessly because we are their sustenance. Just as we are rear chickens in chicken coops, the predators rear us in human coops, humaneros. Therefore, the food is always available to them. A humanero. That's interesting. Don't be a humanero. Wow. Wow. Therefore their food is always available to them. No, Carlos replies. This is absurd, Don Juan. What you're saying is something monstrous. It simply can't be true for sorcerers or for us average men or for anyone. Why not? Don Juan asks calmly. Why not? Because it infuriates you? You haven't heard all the claims yet. I want to appeal to your analytical mind. Think for a moment and tell me, how would you explain the contradictions between the intelligence of man, the engineer, and the stupidity of his systems of beliefs, or the stupidity of his contradictory behavior? I mean, that's an interesting quote right there, like the very existence of statism or scientism. Sorcerers believe that the predators have given us our systems of belief, our ideas of good and evil, our social mores. They are the ones who set up our hopes and expectations and dreams of success or failure. They have given us covetousness, greed, and cowardice. It is the predators who make us complacent, routinary, and egomaniacal. But how can they do this, Don Juan? Carlos asked, somehow angered further by what Don Juan was saying. Do they whisper all that in our ears while we are asleep? No, they don't do it that way. That's idiotic, Don Juan said, smiling. They are infinitely more efficient and organized than that. In order to keep us obedient and meek and weak, the predators engage themselves in a stupendous maneuver. Stupendous, of course, from the point of a fighting strategist. A horrendous maneuver from the point of view of those who suffer it. They gave us their mind. Do you hear me? The predators gave us their mind, which becomes our mind. The predator's mind is baroque, contradictory, morose, filled with the fear of being discovered any minute now. I know that even though you have never suffered hunger, you have food anxiety, which is none other than the anxiety of the predator who fears that any moment now its maneuver is going to be uncovered and food is going to be denied. Wow, that's actually quite mind-shocking because, again, if fasting is so revolutionary for both physical and mental reasons, and people are afraid of going hungry, even though they've never gone hungry and they think they need 3 square meals a day, no matter what, when obviously, spiritual fasting can go for weeks and weeks and even months. Through the mind, which, after all, is their mind, the predators inject into the lives of human beings whatever is convenient for them. And they ensure, in this manner, a degree of security to act as a buffer against their fear. The sorcerers of ancient Mexico were quite ill at ease with the idea of when the predator made its appearance on Earth. They reasoned that man must have been a complete being at one point with stupendous insights, feats of awareness that are mythological legends nowadays, and then everything seems to disappear, and we have now a sedated man. What I am saying is that what we have against us is not a simple predator. It is very smart and organized. It follows a methodical system to render us useless. Man, the magical being that he is destined to be, is no longer magical. He's an average piece of meat. There are no more dreams for man, but the dreams of an animal who is being raised to become a piece of meat. Trite, conventional, imbecilic. Quite haunting, quite haunting. So this is supposedly passed down ancient wisdom. So they already knew. How did they know about this mind parasite, reptilian or otherwise? Now, who's ready to get crazy? Who has heard of the reptilian brain, also known as the reptilian complex, the basal ganglia? Wow. The reptilian brain, also known as the lizard brain. Now, again, this isn't just like a slang. It's literally known as the reptilian brain in literature, in medical literature and scientific literature. Now, after reading that quote from Carlos Castaneda, what does everybody think of the reptilian brain? The mind parasite. Yeah, so Heracles says the serpent tempting Eve. Does that give a new reference point that Eve was deceived, possibly her own will violated? Because I know a lot of people give Eve a lot of crap and victim blame and say that, she committed the act. But if she was deceived through a mind parasite against her own will, what does that mean? So Paul MacLean's Trian brain, primitive emotions overruled conscious thoughts. This is straight from Yale School of Medicine. And also, coincidentally, Carl Sagan wrote a book in 1977, The Dragons of Eden, exploring the evolution of the human brain. It won the Pulitzer Prize for general nonfiction in 78 and launched Sagan's celebrity as a spokesman for science, or scientism more accurately, in the 1980s. So this is very, very interesting. The real star of the book, however, was a theory of human neural organization that took root some 30 years earlier in writings by Paul D. MacLean. MacLean, who died at age 94, was highly original, some say eccentric thinker, whose model of the brain, although now discredited, has had a lasting cultural impact. The beginnings of MacLean's theory appeared in a 1949 paper just as he joined the faculty of the School of Medicine as an assistant professor of physiology with a joint appointment in psychiatry. After conducting electroencephalographic recordings in patients with psychosomatic illnesses and epilepsy at Massachusetts General Hospital, MacLean had become convinced that the emotional components of these disorders were seated in deep brain structures that he called the visceral brain and renamed the limbic system in 52, which included the hippocampus, amygdala, and cingulate gyrus. Since all mammals possess variants of these structures, MacLean concluded that they are phylogenetically ancient. Predator, predate, predator. And the emotional responses they produce are only weakly regulated by such newer human structures as the neocortex. Our affective behavior continues to be dominated by a relatively crude and primitive system, he wrote. 20 years later, MacLean rounded out his picture of the Trian 3-in-1 brain by adding what he termed the R complex. The R standing for reptilian. So that's interesting that he chose that as the name, is it not? And then, of course, he was discredited, like a lot of truth tellers. Very interesting indeed. Is it not? Is it not? Aaron's Energy 313 says, yes, it's the part that controls basic needs and instinct, I believe. Yeah, is that part of the deception, though? Perhaps that's not the reptilian brain, and the reptilian brain is the deceptive brain, thinking that that's what's necessary when it's not, and then emotions come in to dominate, particularly fear. Yeah, I think it's all deception. That's obviously the nature of their game in any case. Just double checking the stream health here. Okay. Should be still good to go here. Okay. So I just think it's very interesting. I mean, literally called the reptilian brain. I mean, this is just crazy, crazy stuff. This is only part one. I'm going to go over one more concept here, and then in episode 2, we're going to be doing an even deeper dive and mind-shocking revelations and finds, but we have a few more here. We have a few more here that got my attention, let's put it that way. So we have this. We have a very interesting TikToker. I think I played one of his videos. Is everybody watching? Is everybody watching the screen right now? Because this might blow your mind. This might be a really big mind shocker, especially for people who don't know what I'm talking about. So everybody, make sure you get your screen as big as possible. It's not going to work on a small screen. I don't know if it'll work on your phone, unless maybe you do it in widescreen. Like, you really have to be able to see a lot for this. So this is Conscious Sean. For those that haven't seen this, this is really weird, so pay attention.
Neo, are you awake yet? Do you still not believe?
There's going to be a point on the screen you're going to have to look at. So if it's too small, you're not going to be able to see it. So everybody needs to be on the biggest screen, or if you're on your phone, you have to be on using the whole screen on your phone, or this won't work.
Focus on the cross.
I'll make it bigger so it's easier. But this is going to blow your mind. Does everybody see the cross? It's actually kind of hard. So let me make it a little easier so everybody can see this. He definitely should have made it easier to see. This is going to really freak people out, just as a heads up. That, like, major trigger warning here. Does everybody see the gray cross right there? Does everybody see it? Does everybody see this? Okay. I mean, again, this is the biggest trigger warning I have ever given in Mindshock history, so fair warning.
And tell me what you see. These are things that can only be seen through your peripheral vision. This is not a trick. This is not an illusion. The longer you watch, the more distorted and grotesque their faces grow, and you can see their true nature. This is true deception. Perception is deception. These images are terrifying. The veil is being lifted. What you're seeing is real. This is what is controlling us. You can stop this video and re-watch it, and you'll see that these faces are not altered. This is true deception. It's time for everyone to wake up and face the truth of what we're dealing with.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back.
Who's freaked out right now?
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Let's watch it again. For people who said this if you don't understand what happened, make sure you focus on the cross here. And again, the cross? Is this all starting to make sense here? Is the cross the symbol of spirituality for a reason? Because it will allow you to see through your peripheral vision? And a cross is also an unfolded cube, the black cube, the symbol of Satan and Saturn, rather, and materialism. The 666. The 6 sides. Watch it again. Make sure you do not deviate your eyes from the cross. Let's do it again. If this didn't work for you, we will do it again. Do not focus your eyes very, very sharply on the cross and nothing but the cross. Do not look at the faces directly. Only look at the cross.
Focus on the cross and tell me what you see. These are things that can only be seen through your peripheral vision. This is not a trick. This is not an illusion. The longer you watch, the more distorted and grotesque their faces grow, and you can see their true nature. This is true deception. Perception is deception. These images are terrifying. The veil is being lifted. What you're seeing is real. This is what is controlling us. You can stop this video and re-watch it, and you'll see that these faces are not altered. This is true deception. It's time for everyone to wake up and face the truth of what we're dealing with.
This is your...
Okay, so in the Shadow People podcast, episode 1, I'm actually going to play on why this appears this way, because I suspect some people do not understand what just happened and why, and I suspect some people have not seen my podcast on not Flat Earth, on Shadow People. On Shadow People. I'm going to explain it in 1 second, because people have not, people haven't watched my Shadow People podcast. This is Shadow People episode 1. I also clipped it. Can the human eye see the paranormal? Because your peripheral vision can see a different portion of the light spectrum. And this explains quite a bit. So let's go through this video on why shadow people or possibly reptilians might be able to be seen through the periphery and not while directly looking at them. All right, so let's get into the peripheral vision aspect of it. So this is a post by Rob Luby. And so this is a post I found on a paranormal investigators group. Can we better see ghosts by using our peripheral vision? Many sightings of ghosts are reported as being seen out of the corner of people's eyes through what's called our peripheral vision. So we wanted to explore peripheral vision and ghosts because some wish to discredit the human ability to accurately see entities through anything but our central vision. Can ghosts be detected through the sides of our eyes? Let's explore. Argument against accurately seeing ghosts through peripheral vision has gained strength because we can be tricked into seeing things that are not there by our brains. While it is common for the brain to gather snapshots from the periphery and then fill in the blanks, known as the phenomenon of seeing something that isn't there, it is still possible that peripheral vision can enhance our ability to see and detect ghosts. Because many reports of ghosts seem to occur during the evening, maybe because people prefer to ghost hunt at night, allow me to briefly explain human eyesight in low light conditions. Receptor cells in the back of the eye can be divided up into two types, rods and cones. Our central vision, used for detailed viewing, relies upon the cones. Peripheral vision depends upon the rods. The differences between these photoreceptor cells give us different capabilities within our collective eyesight. And for viewing ghosts, that could be important to know. For example, when seeing in dark environments, it is well known that our central vision is weak due to reliance upon bright light, while peripheral vision is much stronger. The rods in our eyes used for seeing the periphery operate much better during low light conditions than cones. This allows the eye to detect light that is 1 billion times dimmer than bright sunlight. On the downside, seeing things out of the corner of our eyes does produce images with less clarity in most cases, but this is not always true. Although peripheral vision is not used to distinguish colors, it is much better at detecting motion. The combination of seeing no color coupled with the excellent ability at detecting movement could be another reason many have reported seeing dark, black, shadowy ghosts move from the corner of their eyes. If you still think this portion of our eyesight has little merit, then you will need to argue with the military. It is well known by the U.S. Army that faint objects in the dark are better viewed by our peripheral vision. Troops are often taught not to focus on objects directly at night, but to direct their vision to one side in order to see them better. Coincidentally, contact lenses would be preferred over glasses in order to maintain a clear path to the periphery. So again, this kind of supports the ghost theory, because if these shadow people, if they're not really shadows, if they really are full color entities with high detail or whatnot, but if you can only see them out of the periphery, they would appear as a shadow even if they're not. That makes sense, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, so let's move on to different frequencies and wavelengths of light. Humans see the range of light known as the visible light spectrum. The typical human eyeball can see the wavelength range of 380 to 750 nanometers. The various wavelengths in the spectrum of visible light are seen as different colors by the three types of photoreceptor cones in our central vision, spanning the full range of hues. Peaking near the center of the visible spectrum at about 500 nanometers, the vision of our photoreceptor rods is sensitized to the wavelengths of violet, blue, green, and yellow, though they cannot see them as colors, but in shades of gray. The longer wavelengths of orange and red are completely eliminated from the peripheral part of our eyesight. Knowing this, we could say our peripheral vision is actually more focused towards monitoring more of the middle range of visible light and not interfered with by higher wavelengths. Could this be a factor that might somehow make our peripheral vision better equipped to see ghosts at times? Maybe. Although we have shared our thoughts about seeing ghosts through our peripheral vision, it is also possible to see ghosts through our central vision, shadow ghosts included. Our point is that there doesn't seem to be one simple answer that explains the mystery of when, where, how, and why we see ghosts. Therefore, we need to keep an open mind. Okay, so here are my thoughts on this. Is it similar to so some people have 20/20 vision. Some people don't. Some people have very bad vision. So obviously this would factor into who can see what. Similar to how certain animals like dogs can see much better in certain wavelengths. So if, like for example, we can't see infrared, it's invisible to the human eye. However, that doesn't mean that infrared doesn't exist. So if these shadow people or ghosts or a lot of these paranormal entities if they can only be viewed in certain wavelengths, and once again, this goes both ways. So both to the observer would have to be capable of seeing certain wavelengths, and a particular entity, if they exist, would have to exist in a certain particular wavelength range. So different entities might have different ranges, and different people have different ranges that they're able to see. So if the periphery gives you slightly more in a specific range that certain paranormal entities might be in, that would explain everything, would it not?
Possibly.
That's all you got, Maxwell?
That's all I got.
All right, let's go a little deeper into the corner of the eye phenomena and shadow ghost. So this is from ASSAP.ac.uk, the Association for the Scientific Study of Anomalous Phenomena, the Paranormal Education and Research Charity. So this is from their website. Paranormal reports sometimes include mentions of things seen in corner of the eye, occasionally as part of a wider haunting. Typically, the phenomena are fleeting and usually vanishes if a witness turns to look straight at them. So once again, does this support or debunk? Because if your periphery is capable of detecting motion and the wavelength and is optimized for certain wavelengths, when you go to look at it with the middle of your eye and you don't see it, does that help prove that it wasn't there, or does that help prove that it was, but it only exists in a certain wavelength? I'm just asking, Maxwell. I'm just asking.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'd like to read up on like the so-called scientific.
Well, I'm giving you. I just gave you a lot of scientific information on what the periphery is optimized for certain wavelengths and for motion, and not specifically detailed. But let's look at another example. So let's say you have infrared goggles on, and you can see like let's say you're a burglar and you're breaking into an art museum, and they have these lasers for the security system. So you put on infrared goggles and you see the lasers. Then you take the goggles off, and you're like, oh well, must have been a trick of the eye. The lasers aren't really there. Is that what the corner of the eye is? It can detect. It's optimized for different wavelengths, so you can see it out of the corner of your eye, but you can't see it with the middle. So now I'm going to give you one of my experiences. So I've had this experience both while walking and driving, and half the time, I would say probably even more than half the time, it's not at night. It's during the daytime. So I see movement, like this dark, shadowy movement out of the corner of the eye. And then I look at it because it gets my attention. Like my brain doesn't even have time to process. Is this a ghost? Is this a shadow person? It's like it's kind of like almost like a quick animal movement where it just draws your attention. So I just turn my head to look. I'm not thinking it's paranormal. I'm not thinking it's not paranormal. I don't have time for that. It's just an instinct. I look at it. It's not there. So then I turn back straight, and then it's there again. And now I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. Then when I try to look at it straight, I can't see it. And then I turn, and I can see it again out of the periphery. And sometimes this repeats multiple times, and then it's gone. So does that mean nothing was ever there? Does that mean something was there and it could only be seen out of the periphery? And when it was no longer there, my periphery couldn't see it either because it wasn't there. Your analysis, Maxwell?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I don't know.
All right, so let me go back to this website. So the corner of the eye phenomena. So yes, typically the phenomena are fleeting and usually vanish if witnesses turn to look straight at them. They are generally reported to look like shadows, often resembling faces or human figures. And by the way, I've never seen a face in the periphery, just figures. And I'm even going to dispute the human figures because I don't know if I would go that far to say they were human. It could have been an animal. I would say a lot of the times my snap judgment to look real quick, for example, if I was hiking in the woods or whatnot, or even driving on a road, I might think it's a deer. So I look at to make sure there's no deer running across the road because I don't want to hit it and and have an accident. I personally have not experienced them to look specifically like human figures. Anyway, so for this reason, they are often called shadow ghosts or shadow people. Some people even think they represent some kind of demon or other strange entity. Corner of the eye phenomena. Before we can consider whether such corner of the eye phenomena might be paranormal, we need to understand what to expect from the normal operation of our peripheral vision. Here's a picture to illustrate how your peripheral vision can change the way things look. It may produce different results depending on your computer screen, the illumination in your room, and your own visual system, from your eyes to the brain. So nothing is guaranteed. Start by looking well to the right of the picture above so that it is barely visible. Note how you cannot see any shape in detail and probably no colors either. Now rotate your head leftwards very slowly, always staring directly forward so that you are aware of more and more of the photo. Gradually, shapes and colors in the photo should become more distinct and obvious. Eventually, when looking just to the right of the photo, you may become aware of an apparent face. The face will probably vanish as you finally stare directly at the photo. Don't worry if you don't see the face. We are all different, and some people will see it while others will not. The face is seen in profile, looking rightwards. Probably the best place to stare at is the tiny red flower about halfway up the photo and about 1/4 of the way from the right edge of the frame. Stare at the flower, and the large face, if you see it at all, should appear to the left. Try looking from different distances and the face may pop out. Even if you don't see a face, you may well see part of the picture. The lighter portion of the in-focus bit appears to pop out from the rest. Some people may even see a face when looking directly at the photo. Others won't see a face at all at any time during the exercise. Either way, the experiment should still demonstrate that peripheral vision of complex shapes and colors, like those in the photo, is poor. You only really see the details photo well when looking directly at it. Using peripheral vision increases the chance of seeing faces and figures in random patterns. The area where we have a clear, detailed view of anything is surprisingly small. To demonstrate this, stare at one word in the middle of this paragraph. Without changing where you are staring, how many words can you read on either side, above and below? The answer is not very many at all. Peripheral vision. So how come the picture in your head looks so detailed if we can only see such a tiny area in high resolution? The answer is that our eyes constantly focus more our eyes are more about rapidly scanning the scene ahead. Then our brains assemble the picture in our heads from the recent scans. For much more on this important topic, see Common Misconception. Outside the central area of the picture in our head, there is much lower resolution. Being used to it, you probably don't even notice this. Peripheral vision is produced largely by retinal rod cells. Unlike the cone cells that produce the central detailed views, rods have poor resolution. Rods are more sensitive to light and movement than cones, but cannot see color. Multiple rod cells converge into a single intraneuron cell. This reduces overall resolution, like merging several pixels into one on a TV picture, but improves sensitivity to movement. This poor resolution and high sensitivity to movement is what causes everyday corner of the eye phenomena, where you are vaguely aware of something in your peripheral vision but cannot see it properly. Rod's insensitivity to color and poor resolution means that corner of the eye phenomena are typically black and white and their shapes vague. If you turn to look at an object seen in the corner of your eye, you will start to see it in much greater detail and in color. As a consequence, it will look completely different. What was a vague dark shadow in the corner of your eye will turn into a differently shaped object in full color. Sometimes the difference will be so pronounced that the original object will appear to vanish. Due to the inbuilt human propensity to see faces and figures in random shapes, it is inevitable that some corner of the eye phenomenon include such shapes. Once we turn to look at them properly, they will no longer make sense as figures or faces. Our brains will then rationalize that this face or figure has vanished. It is no wonder that witnesses think they have seen a ghost or shadow person. Furthermore, our brains may substitute objects that are not seen as well, such as those in peripheral vision, with similar things from our visual memory. These visual substitutions, which occur before we are consciously aware of what we're seeing, can appear strikingly real. Such substitutions are not limited to just faces and figures, though these are common. You know, that's super interesting because In John Keel's work, and we talk about him quite a bunch, I talk about him extensively on the Mothman series. You can check that out on the channel. He believes that a lot of these paranormal phenomena draw upon information already in the brain of the observer. So that's why throughout history you might see these weird paranormal entities in olden times dressed as they would back then. And in modern times you might get men in black or extraterrestrials or whatnot, because it's using information in someone's brain to fill in gaps, so to speak. What do you think about that?
That's interesting.
That's all you got, Maxwell?
That's all I got.
Maxwell Army. Distance is difficult to judge in peripheral vision, partly due to a lack of details and also because some objects may only be visible in one eye. No stereopsis, due to the nose intruding. The distance of objects seen in peripheral vision may thus often be wrongly reported. Something nearby may appear farther away or vice versa. In particular, a nearby small object can appear bigger and further away. Naturally, the effect disappears when you turn to look directly at the object. So a large object, seen as a ghost, in the middle distance vanishes, leaving only a small bush nearby. Shadow ghosts. Of course, some people believe that shadow people and shadow ghosts exist as genuine paranormal phenomena. There are reports of shadow ghosts seen when looking straight ahead. One possible explanation for shadow ghosts seen in direct vision is actual shadows. Shadow ghosts are also sometimes reported in photographs and videos. These are usually photographic artifacts. However, where shadows are seen only in peripheral vision, the explanation given above must certainly be considered. If people are convinced they are living in a haunted house, they may notice such natural phenomena more acutely than usual, sensitized to the idea by psychological suggestion. Once again, I'm going to counter that point by saying if that house really is a haunted house, they'd be more likely to see these entities. So both are true. So once again, I'm not going to fall for the black and white fallacy either. If the house is not haunted and a person believes it is haunted, then they would possibly see more shadow people. Just like if the house is actually haunted, if the entities are real, they would also be more likely to see more. So I don't see how that debunks it. It's kind of, again, fallacious. An interesting point about shadow ghosts is that many are typically seen to be moving. If they weren't, they probably wouldn't be noticed. There are motion illusions related to peripheral vision that may account for certain specific sightings. The peripheral drift illusion occurs when you observe an object with alternating black and white and sometimes gray lines or rectangles, or something resembling that situation. When such objects are observed in the peripheral vision, anomalous motion may appear. In real life cases, this might occur in a semi-dark situation with fence posts, railings, stair banister spindles, or wheels, particularly if they are painted white. The illusion is thought to be caused by the way our brains detect motion in our visual fields. So once again, I completely agree. So if 90% of cases occurred around these things, then that could possibly be an explanation if shadow people aren't real. If they are real, what would stop them from appearing where there are also stair banisters, railings, fences, or wheels? Another curiosity is that the people that saw shapeshifters, I'd be curious to know if they were looking at the reptilian shifting straight on or through the periphery. Because, I mean, I'm guessing, you know, you're just turning your head and you might catch something in mid-shift, or a reptilian shapeshifter in mid-shift. Then you look to see straight on ahead, and then you might not see it. So it would be, I don't think David Icke polled all the people. I think he said he had hundreds of witnesses, something like that, like around 400 people claimed they saw reptilian shapeshifters. So, okay. So who's ready to go further into Mindshock land? I have one more point here that's going to blow some minds. If your mind isn't already too shocked, we have even more. But wait, there's more. I mean, we are really going further into Mindshock land possibly than we have ever gone before. if YouTube will allow. It still started glitching a little bit. Let me see what I can do here. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, we got this. Got 2 more videos here. Just give me another couple seconds here. Okay, here we go. Okay, got 2 more. Okay. Alright. Almost ready, almost ready. A couple more seconds here. Get this. Okay.
I want to start.
So this is also from Conscious Sean, who's bringing forth some revelatory stuff.
This video off by saying reptilian lives matter. I'm O negative. Can't hate me cause you made me. We blood. Come on, fam. Don't take my video down. I have to speak very saucily on this subject because my video was taken down. I won the appeal, and then last night they took it down again for this reason. The way that the reptilians shapeshift is not actually shapeshifting. They are blasting a frequency on your visual cortex to give the illusion that they are human. And the bells were used to disrupt this frequency. You can look at this video clip here from Spider-Man. And here's a clip from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Shapeshifters don't actually shapeshift. They project a frequency onto your visual cortex to give the illusion that they are human. The frequency from the bells disrupts the frequency placed upon your visual cortex. This is why whoever it was that took the bells. Without any bells interrupting the frequency that they have placed on our visual cortex, they are allowed to walk among us rent-free.
This is kind of crazy too, because wow, John McClure here says, I saw shapeshifters in the late 70s at a funeral. They were feeding off the emotion of the people through a tail that connected to their spines. Well, we're about to go really heavy into the bells because when I first saw this clip, again, my appeal to incredulity was starting to go off. But upon further examination, it appears that realms were actually that bells were actually pretty extensive in this realm, and then they all disappeared one day. Now, who's ready for some etymology? Bell, B-H-E-L, to sound or to roar. It would cause them to roar, like in that Spider-Man clip. Do reptilians roar when a bell is rung? And also, of course, there's the adage, does this ring a bell? Awaken a memory. Awaken a memory. The bells went off. The bell goes off in your mind. Also, bell, B-E-L-L-E, the bell of the ball. It comes from French, beautiful or fair, but also from 1620s, beautiful woman, well dressed. That's interesting. So does this mean, I mean, this is kind of weird. Is it because the bell will reveal the shapeshifters, and those that are not shapeshifters are beautiful? They're beautiful humans? Interesting. Very, very interesting.
Doing as they please. This is the reason why whoever took the bells away took them away, because they are in bed with the reptilian shapeshifters. This is true cloaking technology, where you cloak everyone's visual cortex versus cloaking the individual itself. So if anyone has a bell plug, let me know down in the comments. It's time to wake everyone up for real. Peace and love, y'all. Yeah.
Okay, so if there's a disruption in that frequency, is that when glitches occur and you can see the shapeshifters? Now let's get even further into Mindshock land for those that think it's impossible. So here is another clip from Conscious Sean. I mean, this guy's pretty wild.
What do reptilians, shapeshifters, and the bells that went missing have in common? The Germans are the ones that took the bells. The Germans were also infatuated with the Vril society, aka the reptilians. The reptilian race are the shapeshifters. Now, shapeshifting is not actually what they do. The way that they shapeshift is they take a frequency and blast it into your visual cortex, so what you are seeing is not a reptilian. So it's not actually shape-shifting, it's just changing your perception of reality. These bells were actually a defense weapon, so we could not be tricked by their frequency trying to trick our visual cortex into believing that they were a skin suit versus a reptile. The frequency from the bells disrupted the frequency or the spell that they were putting under our visual cortex. Rebel, to change the frequency. So of course
Rebel? The rebels? Rebel? Wow. Wow. Mind-shocking revelations even for me.
they got all the bells so that they could hide among us in peace, so that we could not discover the true deception that they were placing upon us. This is the true reason why the Germans took all the bells. Everyone's saying, oh, they took all the bells. Why did they take the bells? This is why, because they are in bed with the reptilian race, and they are allowing them to walk among us rent-free without us even knowing, right under our nose. Yes, I understand that the bells could be used for a healing frequency, and they could be healing the body. This is how they kill two birds with one stone. They take away our ability to heal, and they take away our ability to visually recognize the reptilians that walk amongst us. everything is starting to make sense. It's time to wake up, people. Let me know in the comments if it checks out.
I mean, this is all quite mind-shocking. This is all quite mind-shocking. But wait, there's more. Man, YouTube doesn't like... I have to constantly reformat everything just to get this to play. Just give me a couple seconds. Now I'm freezing my whole control panel here. Quite annoying. Yeah, let me see if I can get the other clips here. Wow. Still working through it here. Well, they don't want this last video played. I'm having a little bit of trouble with it. Just bear with me. Wow, this is really annoying. Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna get the... I don't know if this is gonna work. Okay. Yeah. Really annoying. If I can't get it in another minute, I might have to move on. Nah. Very, very annoying here. It's not letting me do anything now on the screen. I guess YouTube didn't like the last two videos, huh? Try one more thing, and if it doesn't work, we'll have to move on. I guess I'll just have to summarize what this video was. It doesn't... This video just disappeared completely. Wow, that is crazy annoying. So Conscious Sean had another video where he said that the ride of Paul Revere, where they sounded the bells and the alarms, all alarms and bells and watchtowers had bells. It wasn't just for the sound of ringing the bell to alert people. It was literally to identify the enemies coming to make sure, or whoever was coming to make sure there weren't a reptilian shapeshifter. So the bell, even a bell to announce, like a doorbell with a peephole. So they ring the doorbell and you look through the peephole to see if when they rung the bell, they were a reptilian shapeshifter or not. That was the true purpose of the doorbell and the peephole. So you're safe behind your door and they can ring the bell and see if there was a reptilian shapeshifter or not. And on the large watchtowers with the bells, let's say an army, let's say their own military platoon is returning. They have to ring the bell to make sure that they're not reptilian shapeshifters. So that's truly mind-shocking. Now let's look at this, because this is now going to tie in with Tartaria. So bells seem to be really, really big with Tartaria. Look at all these bells of the previous realm. I mean, hundreds of thousands, if not more, across the entire realm. And there's so many images like these of just giant bells Oh, that's a high-res one. So whatever happened at the end of Tartaria, it's like they took all the bells away. Now, why would they do that? So the enemy can hide in plain sight? I mean, just look at all these photos of them just taking all the bells away. And there's some interesting insignias there on some of these crests, on some of these bells, and it looks like there's a lot written on them as well. Just really crazy stuff here. And they were all disposed of. It seemed like bells were just such an integral part of this realm at the end of Tartaria. Now there are hardly any bells anywhere. I mean, the Liberty Bell, got that one too. I mean, just giant graveyards of bells. I mean, this is just really, really mind-shocking stuff. I mean, are we really in revelatory times where all truth shall be revealed? Well, what about believe? Bell live? Believe? The bell to live? Believe? And the bell lie? Lies? You can't lie to the bell? Let me see if I could actually get another video working here. Yeah, I have another video. So supposedly I'm seeing here literally hundreds of thousands of bells were just destroyed and taken to these bell cemeteries. There's another video here I'm going to play. Quite interesting with even more images like this. What is going on in this realm? I mean, there's just entire bell graveyards. I mean, this is crazy stuff. And they're so ornate as well. I wonder if the inscriptions have to do with what frequency the bell is. I mean, these are really gigantic bells. Like, why would they be necessary? I mean, think about that. I mean, obviously, the bigger it is, the further the frequency could travel, but yeah. And why are they getting rid of all of them? I mean, it's just weird. Those aren't that huge, but again, just all these bell cemeteries. I mean, that's a lot of bells. Quite a lot of bells. So yeah, I'm gonna round out the episode here. I have part 2 coming, which is gonna be just as mind-shocking, if not more so. Oh, wow, ironically, Kiska Sweetie Bell in the chat saying, I wonder if gongs have a similar frequency. That is interesting, yes. Gag Disorder says, the main explanation for this is they melted them all down for munitions and warfare equipment. I mean, all over the world, though, in every country? I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe some of them, yeah. Well, also, like, bells, churches, cathedrals, cathode, real, cathedral, cathode, real, electricity, cathodes. Very, very interesting stuff hidden in the words themselves. So, hope everybody enjoyed another edition of the Mindshock podcast. We will be back for more in episode 2 of the Reptilian Conspiracy. And we will be diving deep more into modern history, reptilians in modern history, and even video techniques to reveal reptilian shapeshifters even within digital technology. Because if it is some kind of built-in filter, perhaps there's a way to manipulate it. And we will be exploring all of that and more in episode 2. I will try to get it out within the next couple days. So thanks again, all the Mindshock listeners. If you find the Mindshock podcast interesting and informative, you can help support the podcast. Donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel. That way, make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.